Hello, welcome to another edition of Grammar Lessons. Today's lesson is Grammar Lesson D. Let's get started. No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to do it like that. But a few things of business to take care of. First off, I hope you did all right on your grammar quiz 1, right, on parts of speech. I hope you did all right. Again, that focused mainly on the parts of a sentence, right, the components that make up a sentence. This unit is going to be focusing on sentences themselves. All right, so to introduce this, I want to show you just a clip from this video. Again, I would look this up for yourselves on YouTube. This is The Tale of Mr. Morton. It's a good introduction to subject and predicates. Let's take a look here, if I can get this going. I realize now you probably can't hear that audio, so I'm sorry about that. But look up The Tale of Mr. Morton. It's a rap, it's a cartoon, it's fun. Look it up. I'll be asking you about it in class to make sure you looked it up and watched that video. All right, so let's go ahead and get into our content for today. All right, so first off, in this unit, we've got lessons D, E, F, G, and H. We're focusing on sentences, different types of sentences, different forms of sentences. Basically, a sentence is all our words when they come together to form some sort of story. They tell who did what and to whom, right? That's a sentence. It's a short little story that tells who did what to whom. All right, so the first part of a sentence is a subject. The subject of our sentence is who or what the sentence is about. So Julius Caesar, one of his famous lines is, I came, I saw, I conquered. The subject of each of those sentences, there's 3 sentences there. I came, 2, I saw, 3, I conquered. Each of those have the same subject, that is I, right? I came, I saw, I conquered. Who or what the sentence is about, who does the main action in the sentence, that is the subject. Now, the predicate always starts with the verb of the sentence. So, I came, I saw, I conquered, came, saw, and conquered, right? They show the action of the subject, right? This is always explicit. It's never implied in your sentences. There's a good quote from a writer named Karen Elizabeth Gordon. She wrote this in a book called The Transitive Vampire. She said, the verb is the heartthrob of a sentence. Without a verb, a group of words can never hope to be anything more than a fragment, a hopelessly incomplete sentence, a eunuch, or dummy of a grammatical expression, right? So the verb, the predicate, the start of the predicate is the most important part of our sentence. We'll be harping on this all year long. You need strong subjects and strong verbs. Strong subjects and strong verbs. Also included in the predicate are your direct objects and indirect objects. These are often very confused, but it's important to know the difference between the two. So your direct object is the noun or pronoun that receives the action. So ask yourself, what is the verb? All right, what's receiving that action? These are transitive verbs. Sentences with transitive verbs have direct objects. So a good example here, we'll take a look at some examples here in a second, but it's important to know that direct object is a noun or pronoun that receives the action. Now, the difference then in an indirect object is very subtle, but it's very important. It is a noun or pronoun to whom or for whom something is being done. So again, the direct object asks the question whom or what. The indirect object asks the question to or for whom or to or for what. Let me show you some examples of this in action. All right. Tomorrow, this is important. whenever you come into class, guys, whether it's my class, Miss Fanner's class, Miss Warren's class, we may each have something slightly different for you to do. That's okay. We just have different ways that we want you to practice these grammar lessons. So you may be doing something like this on no red ink. You may be actually writing some sentences. You may be identifying subjects, predicates, direct objects, indirect objects in some handout. Whatever it is, we're all working on the same goal. But you may see something like this, right? So you have to identify the subject, the predicate, and the objects of the sentence. So for example, an alarm went off in Daniel's room. An alarm is the subject. It's who or what the sentence is about. Went off is the verb, right? That is what the action that the subject is doing. And in Daniel's room is part of a prepositional phrase. Okay? So the subject is not always the beginning of the sentence, and it can be one or more words. So for example, until today, Mike always ran to Cindy's house. So Mike is our subject. It didn't start at the beginning of the sentence. And there's also something separating the subject and the verb. So the verb doesn't always come right after the subject. So Mike always ran to Cindy's house. Or in a question, you'll oftentimes see a sentence in reverse, right? So why is it dark? The subject here is the pronoun it, and is the verb, right? Or take a look at this. All the papers flew off my desk. Our subject here is all the papers, right? That's all included in the subject. Flew is the verb, right? There's the start of our predicate. If we were diagramming this sentence, we would have all the papers flew off my desk, all right? Another thing to point out is that you may have an understood subject. This is a little tricky, but you may have an understood you. Right? So if we were to write it out, we would have in parentheses, you do something, right? So in my classroom, I have this Moby Dick poster, right? The first sentence in Moby Dick, one of the most famous sentences in all of literature, is call me Ishmael. Call me Ishmael. Who's the subject of that sentence? You, right? It's implied. You are the subject of that sentence. It's an imperative sentence. Call me Ishmael. You call me Ishmael. Now, there's reasons for that, right? There's a reason for that. It actually brings you, the reader, into the story immediately, all right? Or you may be asked to do something like this tomorrow, to identify the direct objects and indirect objects in some sentences. So we have sentence 1. Literary critics gave high praise to Arthur Miller for his play, The Crucible, and the general public loved it too. The opera, number 2, the opera based on The Crucible won a Tony Award, and another play, Death of a Salesman, won Miller a Pulitzer Prize. Number 3, a panel awarded Miller the 1993 National Medal of Arts, one of the highest honors a writer can receive. All right, I'm going to pause this for just a second. You can pause too. I want you to work out the direct objects and indirect objects in the sentence. See if you can do that to yourself. All right, we're going to take a look at question 1 and 2, and then we'll save number 3 for class, or you can bring in questions for number 3. So look at number 1. Number 1, you've got literary critics gave high praise to Arthur Miller for his play The Crucible, and the general public loved it too. Literary critics is our subject, right? Remember, that is who or what the sentence is about and who's doing the action. What action are the critics doing? They are giving. So gave is our verb here, if we're identifying that. Now, our direct object is they gave what, right? Or whom. They gave praise. Praise is our direct object. Remember, indirect objects as to who, or to whom, or for whom, to what, for what. To Arthur Miller. Arthur Miller is our indirect object, right? This is also what we call a compound sentence. That means there's 2 parts to it. The general public loved it too. Public, subject, loved, verb. It is our direct object, okay? So look at number 2. The opera, that would be our subject. 1 would be our verb. A Tony Award. What did they win? Or whom did they win? Well, they won a Tony Award. That's our direct object. Another play, again, this is a compound sentence. Another play, a subject, 1, verb, Miller, a Pulitzer Prize. Now, it didn't win Miller, right? It's not like they received Miller, right, by winning. No, they won a Pulitzer Prize. So this time it's a little bit out of order compared to a normal sentence, but it still works. Right? They won a Pulitzer Prize for Miller, right? We could reword this sentence to say a Pulitzer Prize for Miller, or won Miller a Pulitzer Prize. Pulitzer Prize is our direct object. Miller is our indirect object. Or you may be asked to do this tomorrow. You may be asked to write 3 sentences about your favorite book or author. Reread your sentences, then underline every direct object and circle every indirect object. Guys, if we're not practicing this in our writing, right, there's really no point to it. The point of these grammar lessons is to make you stronger writers. All right, that's what we want to do. So whichever type of exercise you do tomorrow, do it to the best of your ability. Put your effort into it. Ask questions. That's what we're here for. All right, see you next time.